Have you ever stood at the edge of the ocean and felt like it was keeping secrets from you? Like somewhere, far beneath those endless blue depths, entire worlds lay waiting in silence? Tonight, we begin a journey that might, just might, change everything we thought we knew about one of humanity's greatest mysteries. That my name is. Well, that doesn't matter so much. What matters is the story I'm about to share with you. A story that begins over 2,000 years ago with a philosopher named Plato, writing by candlelight in ancient Athens. He was describing a civilization so magnificent, so advanced, that scholars have been searching for it ever since. Atlantis. For most of human history, we've treated Atlantis as nothing more than a beautiful myth, a philosopher's allegory, a dream wrapped in metaphor. But what if Plato wasn't creating fiction at all? What if he was recording history? Recent discoveries that have sent shockwaves through the archaeological community, suggest that maybe, just maybe, we've been looking at this all wrong. Tonight, we'll explore evidence that has some of the world's leading researchers quietly whispering a question they never dared ask before. Could Atlantis actually be real? Picture Athens in the year 360 BC. The marble columns of the Academy catch the golden afternoon light as Plato, now in his 60s, settles down to write. His beard is silver, his hands weathered by decades of contemplation and teaching. He dips his reed pen in ink and begins to craft what will become one of history's most enduring mysteries. In his dialogues, the Timaeus and the Critias, Plato describes a conversation. His great-grandfather, Solon, had once traveled to Egypt, to the ancient city of Sais. There, in the shadow of towering pyramids already thousands of years old, Egyptian priests shared with him a story that would echo through millennia. Listen then, Solon, one of the priests had said, his voice carrying the weight of forgotten ages, to a tale which, though strange, is certainly true. The priest spoke of an island civilization that existed 9,000 years before Solon's time, a place of unimaginable beauty and power, situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. This was Atlantis, a kingdom that rose from the ocean like a jewel, its circular islands connected by bridges, its temples gleaming with precious metals. But here's what's fascinating, and what kept me awake many nights as I researched this series. Plato's description wasn't vague or dreamlike, the way myths usually are. No, his account was precise, almost technical. He described the exact dimensions of the city. The outer ring was 3 stadia wide, the inner harbor exactly 3,000 feet in diameter. He mentioned specific materials, black, white, and red volcanic stone. He described their naval technology, their agriculture, their political system. Does that sound like mythology to you? Or does it sound like someone trying very hard to record actual historical facts? For centuries, scholars approached Atlantis with what I can only describe as intellectual embarrassment. It was relegated to the realm of fantasy, filed away next to fairy tales and legend. The Bronze Age world, they argued, simply couldn't support such an advanced civilization. Ancient peoples didn't have the technology, the organization, the sophistication that Plato described. But then, something interesting began to happen. In 1900, a British archaeologist named Sir Arthur Evans was digging on the Greek island of Crete when he uncovered something extraordinary, the ruins of an entire civilization that the Bronze Age world supposedly couldn't support. The Minoans, as we now call them, had indeed created a sophisticated society with advanced technology, complex political systems, and remarkable architecture. Their palace at Knossos was a marvel, a sprawling complex with indoor plumbing, elaborate frescoes, and storage systems that could feed thousands. They had a written language, extensive trade networks, and ships that could navigate the treacherous Mediterranean with confidence. They were everything the Bronze Age wasn't supposed to be capable of producing. And here's where it gets interesting. The Minoan civilization flourished on an island. It was a maritime power. It had circular architectural elements, advanced engineering, and it vanished quite suddenly from the historical record, sometime around 1450 BC. Could the Minoans have been? Could they have been the inspiration for Atlantis? Some researchers began to whisper this possibility, but others shook their heads. The timeline was wrong, they said. The location was wrong. The scale was wrong. But what if? What if they were all looking in the wrong place? You see, there's something most people don't realize about our planet's oceans. We've explored less than 5% of them. Less than 5%. That means 95% of Earth's underwater realm remains as mysterious to us as the dark side of the moon was to our grandparents. Every year, oceanographers discover new underwater mountain ranges, hidden valleys, entire ecosystems that science never knew existed. And sometimes they find things that make them stop and wonder. In recent decades, marine archaeologists have located dozens of submerged cities and settlements around the world. Places that were once above water, thriving with human life, now resting in eternal twilight beneath the waves. The Mediterranean alone has yielded underwater ruins in Egypt, Israel, Greece, and Turkey. Each discovery forces us to reconsider what we thought we knew about ancient sea levels, about lost coastlines, about civilizations that time forgot. But here's what's truly remarkable. Advanced sonar and satellite imaging technology has revealed underwater structures that seem to match, in startling detail, some of the geographical features Plato described. Circular formations on the ocean floor, geometric patterns that appear too regular, too purposeful to be natural. Most of these discoveries are still being analyzed. The data is preliminary, the conclusions tentative. But marine archaeologist Dr. Sarah Chun, working off the coast of Morocco, recently told her colleagues something that sent ripples through their community. "We're looking at something that shouldn't exist," she whispered during a late-night video call with her research team. "The geometry is too perfect, the scale is too vast, and the age is exactly what Plato said it would be." In 2018, satellite imagery began revealing something extraordinary beneath the Atlantic waters. Using advanced ground-penetrating radar and sonar mapping, researchers identified what appeared to be massive geometric structures on the ocean floor. Approximately 600 miles west of Morocco, the formations were circular, concentric, precisely the kind of layout that Plato had described in his account of Atlantis. Dr. Michael Hubner, a satellite imaging specialist, spent months analyzing the data. What he found kept him awake at night. The underwater structures showed evidence of being constructed, not naturally formed. The proportions matched ancient architectural principles. And most intriguingly, the site showed geological evidence of having been above sea level approximately 11,000 years ago. At first, I thought there must be an error in our calculations, Dr. Hubner later confided to his research assistant. The implications were simply too significant. But we ran the analysis again and again. The data was consistent. We're looking at what appears to be a man-made complex of extraordinary size and sophistication, submerged at exactly the time period Plato specified. The research team has been quietly working on this discovery for the past 5 years, carefully mapping the site, analyzing geological samples, building a case that they hope will withstand the inevitable scrutiny, because they know that if they're actually right, then everything we thought we knew about human history might need to be rewritten. But the satellite imagery was just the beginning. In 2022, a deep-sea exploration vessel retrieved something from the Atlantic site that no one was prepared for. Crystalline artifacts unlike anything in the archaeological record. These weren't ordinary quartz or mineral formations. They were geometric, precisely cut, with internal structures that seemed to serve some technological purpose. When subjected to various forms of energy, light, heat, electromagnetic fields, they exhibited properties that our current science struggles to explain. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a materials scientist at the University of Madrid, has been studying these crystals for over a year now. In her private research notes, she wrote, "These artifacts display a level of precision that we can barely achieve with our most advanced manufacturing techniques. The atomic structure is organized in patterns that seem designed to manipulate energy in ways we don't fully understand. If these truly date to the time period that our geological analysis suggests, then we're looking at a technology that predates our known civilization by thousands of years." The crystals have been subjected to every dating technique available: carbon dating, luminescence dating, radiometric analysis. All point to the same impossible conclusion. They're approximately 11,000 years old, exactly the age that Plato claimed Atlantis to be. Perhaps most intriguingly, some of the recovered artifacts bear markings. not random scratches or natural erosion patterns, but what appear to be intentional symbols, geometric designs that follow consistent patterns, suggesting a writing system or symbolic language. Dr. James Morrison, a linguist specializing in ancient scripts, has been working with a team of cryptographers to analyze these markings. In his preliminary report, he noted something that sent chills down the spines of everyone who read it. The symbolic patterns show remarkable similarities to certain pre-Indo-European scripts found in Mediterranean contexts, but they also contain elements that are completely unique. It's as if we're looking at a writing system that represents either a very early stage of human literacy or possibly a completely independent development of written language. Independent development. Do you understand what that means? It means that if these symbols are genuine, they represent evidence of a civilization that developed writing, technology, and architectural sophistication entirely separate from the known historical progression of human culture, that a civilization that fits in every detail Plato's description of Atlantis. Now, you might be wondering, if this evidence is so compelling, why haven't you heard about it before tonight? Why isn't this discovery making headlines around the world? The answer, I'm afraid, is more complex than you might expect. The scientific community is cautious, extraordinarily cautious. The study of Atlantis has been associated with pseudoscience and fringe theories for so long that legitimate researchers risk their careers by seriously investigating it. Academic journals are reluctant to publish papers on the topic. Funding institutions are hesitant to support research that might be dismissed as fantasy. But there's something else. Something that the researchers involved in these discoveries have only begun to whisper about among themselves. The site in the Atlantic isn't unprotected. It's being monitored. By whom? Nobody seems entirely certain. Government agencies, perhaps. International organizations. Groups with interests that extend far beyond academic archaeology. Dr. Chen mentioned this in one of her encrypted communications with colleagues. We're not the only ones who know about this site. Every time we approach for research, we detect other vessels in the area. They maintain their distance, but they're watching. Someone else knows what we've found, and they seem very interested in making sure it stays quiet. So here we are, standing at the edge of what might be the most significant archaeological discovery in human history. Evidence that suggests one of our greatest myths might actually be historical fact. Technology that challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities. Artifacts that could rewrite the timeline of human civilization. But as I've learned in my research for this series, finding Atlantis, if we've truly found Atlantis, raises more questions than it answers. Questions about who built it, how they achieved such technological sophistication, and most intriguingly, what happened to them? Because you see, the geological evidence suggests that this civilization didn't just fade away gradually. The Atlantic site shows signs of having been abandoned quickly, possibly catastrophically, as if the inhabitants had to leave in a hurry, taking with them whatever knowledge and technology they could carry, which raises perhaps the most fascinating question of all. Where did they go? Tomorrow night, we'll dive deeper into this mystery. We'll explore the geological evidence that suggests Atlantis didn't simply sink. It was destroyed by forces that still echo in the Earth's memory. We'll meet the oceanographers and geologists who are piecing together the story of what they're calling the Great Catastrophe, an event so significant that it may have shaped the development of human civilization itself. That will also examine newly discovered sites around the Mediterranean and beyond that suggest Atlantis might not have been a single island, but the heart of a far-reaching civilization that left traces across multiple continents. Evidence that the survivors of this ancient cataclysm might have carried their knowledge to places we're only beginning to understand. And perhaps most intriguingly, we'll explore the growing body of evidence suggesting that some of their technology, some of their knowledge, might still be recoverable. But for now, as you drift towards sleep, let yourself imagine standing on the shore of the Atlantic Ocean 11,000 years ago. The water is clearer then, the air fresher, and rising from the waves in the distance, catching the golden light of dawn, you see something that takes your breath away. Gleaming white towers, connected by elegant bridges, arranged in perfect circles around a harbor that seems to glow with its own inner light. Was it real? Was Atlantis truly the magnificent civilization that Plato described? The evidence we've gathered suggests Well, it suggests that the answer might surprise you. Sweet dreams, fellow explorer. Tomorrow, we dive deeper into the mystery that could change everything we thought we knew about our past, and possibly our future. Have you ever noticed how the Earth seems to remember things? How layers of rock hold stories from millions of years past? How ice cores preserve ancient atmospheres? How the very ground beneath our feet whispers secrets of civilizations long forgotten? Tonight, we return to our journey into one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Last time, we explored the tantalizing evidence that Atlantis might be more than myth. Satellite imagery revealing circular structures on the Atlantic floor. Crystalline artifacts that challenge our understanding of ancient technology. Symbols that suggest a lost writing system. But there's something else. Something written in the earth itself, in layers of sediment and stone that tell a story of catastrophe so profound it may have shaped the very course of human history. Welcome back to our exploration of Atlantis. Tonight, we dive deeper into the geological evidence that's forcing scientists to reconsider everything they thought they knew about our planet's past, and possibly our future. The Stone Scribes Dr. Maria Santos has spent the last 15 years studying sediment cores from the Atlantic Ocean floor. Her laboratory at the Institute of Marine Geology in Lisbon is filled with cylindrical samples, columns of mud and sand and ancient debris that tell the story of our planet's history, layer by careful layer. But in 2019, while analyzing cores taken from the area where those mysterious circular structures were discovered, she found something that made her hands tremble as she held the sample up to the light. "I've seen thousands of sediment layers," she later confided to her research assistant, her voice barely above a whisper. "You learn to read them like pages in a book. Volcanic ash from known eruptions, debris from storms, the gradual accumulation of marine life over millennia." But this was different. What Dr. Santos discovered was a layer of sediment unlike anything in the geological record. It appeared in cores taken from multiple sites across a vast area of the Atlantic, all dating to approximately the same time period. 11,000 years ago, the layer contained materials that shouldn't exist together, fragments of worked stone mixed with metallic particles of unknown composition, organic matter that had been subjected to temperatures far exceeding anything natural to the ocean floor, and microscopic crystalline structures that resembled the artifacts recovered from the Atlantic site. It looked, Dr. Santos wrote in her private research notes, like evidence of a civilization-scale catastrophe, as if an entire advanced society had been pulverized and scattered across the ocean floor in a matter of hours. The memory of water, but the ocean sediments were just the beginning. As word of Dr. Santos's discovery spread quietly through the geological community, other researchers began examining their own data with fresh eyes. What they found painted a picture of catastrophe on a scale that few were prepared to accept. Dr. Robert Chun, no relation to the marine archaeologist Sarah Chun we met last episode, is a paleoclimatologist at Oxford University. His specialty is reading the climate history preserved in ice cores and lake sediments. In late 2020, while reviewing data from locations across the North Atlantic, he noticed something that kept him awake for weeks. The pattern was unmistakable, he later told his colleagues during a private symposium. Around 11,000 years ago, there was a sudden, dramatic climate shift. Not gradual, as we usually see with natural climate variations, but rapid, almost instantaneous in geological terms. The evidence was written in ice cores from Greenland, sediment cores from European lakes, and tree ring data from forests across the northern hemisphere. All pointed to the same conclusion. Something had caused a massive disruption to the global climate system approximately 11,000 years ago. But here's what made Dr. Chin's discovery so remarkable. The climate shift appeared to originate from a specific region of the North Atlantic, the same region where the mysterious circular structures had been identified. It was as if, he whispered to his research partner during one of their late-night analysis sessions, something in that part of the ocean had suddenly released an enormous amount of energy, enough to disrupt weather patterns across half the planet. The signature tsunamis leave scars, not just in human memory, but in the geological record itself. When a massive wall of water crashes across a landscape, it leaves behind distinctive deposits, layers of marine sediment carried far inland, shells and sea creatures deposited in places they could never naturally reach, patterns of erosion and destruction that can be read by trained eyes thousands of years later. Dr. James McKenna, a tsunami geologist at the University of Edinburgh, has spent his career studying these ancient signatures of catastrophe. But in 2021, while analyzing coastal sediment deposits from Western Ireland, he found something that changed his understanding of prehistoric disasters forever. The deposit layer was massive, he explained to his graduate students, his voice filled with quiet awe. 3 meters thick in some places, containing marine organisms that could only have come from deep Atlantic waters. The energy required to carry that much material so far inland, it would have required a tsunami of unimaginable proportions. The radiocarbon dating was consistent with all the other evidence, approximately 11,000 years ago. But what made Dr. McKenna's discovery truly extraordinary was the geographical pattern. Similar tsunami deposits from the same time period had been identified along the coasts of Ireland, Scotland, Spain, Morocco, and even the eastern seaboard of North America. We're not talking about a localized event, he confided to his colleague during a research expedition to the Irish coast. This was a civilization-ending tsunami that affected the entire Atlantic basin. The wave heights would have been, well, they would have been biblical in scale. Standing on those Irish cliffs, looking out at the peaceful Atlantic waters, Dr. McKenna tried to imagine what the coastline would have looked like 11,000 years ago as a wall of water hundreds of feet high approached from the west. The very rocks beneath his feet held the memory of that ancient catastrophe, preserved in layers of sand and shell and deep ocean debris. The fire mountains speak, but tsunamis don't happen in isolation. They're usually caused by massive geological events, earthquakes, landslides, or volcanic eruptions of extraordinary violence. As researchers continued investigating the 11,000-year-old catastrophe layer, they began to uncover evidence of what might have triggered such destruction. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a volcanologist at the University of Tokyo, has spent years studying underwater volcanic activity in the Atlantic Ridge system. Her research focuses on identifying ancient eruptions through chemical analysis of volcanic ash preserved in ocean sediments. But when she began analyzing samples from the mysterious Atlantic site, she discovered something that challenged everything she thought she knew about prehistoric volcanism. The ash signature was unlike anything I'd seen before, she later wrote in her research journal. The chemical composition suggested not just volcanic activity, but a type of eruption that we have no modern equivalent for. The energy release would have been catastrophic, doesn't even begin to describe it. The volcanic ash layer corresponded exactly with the other evidence: the climate disruption, the tsunami deposits, the civilization-scale destruction preserved in ocean sediments. But Dr. Tanaka's analysis revealed something even more intriguing. The volcanic activity appeared to be centered precisely on the location where the circular structures had been identified. It's as if, she confided to her research partner, during one of their deep-sea expeditions, the island, if it was an island, was sitting directly on top of a volcanic system of incredible power. When it erupted, it wouldn't just have destroyed the civilization living there. It would have literally vaporized the land itself, sending massive tsunamis racing across the Atlantic and enough ash into the atmosphere to disrupt the global climate for years. The survivors trail, but here's where the story becomes even more fascinating. Because as researchers continued investigating the 11,000-year-old catastrophe, they began to find evidence suggesting that not everyone perished in the destruction. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, an archaeologist specializing in Neolithic migrations, has been studying patterns of technological and cultural advancement in Mediterranean civilizations. In recent years, she's noticed something remarkable. Around 10 to 11,000 years ago, there was a sudden leap in sophistication among several ancient cultures. The evidence appears in multiple locations. In Turkey, the mysterious site of Göbekli Tepe represents a level of architectural and astronomical knowledge that seems to emerge from nowhere in the archaeological record. Point 1 in Egypt. The precision of early dynastic construction suggests access to advanced mathematical and engineering principles. Point 2 in Malta. The temple complexes demonstrate acoustic and astronomical alignments that surpass what the surrounding cultures should have been capable of achieving. What we're seeing, Dr. Rodriguez explained to her colleagues during a conference in Rome, looks very much like the signature of refugee populations carrying advanced knowledge into less developed societies, as if survivors of a highly sophisticated civilization had scattered across the Mediterranean, bringing with them technologies and wisdom that dramatically accelerated local development. The timing is consistent with the Atlantic catastrophe. The geographical spread follows logical refugee routes from the Western Atlantic toward established population centers in the Mediterranean and beyond. And perhaps most intriguingly, many of these sudden technological advances involve precisely the kind of skills that Plato attributed to the Atlanteans: advanced architecture, sophisticated metallurgy, astronomical knowledge, and complex social organization. The crystal memory, remember those mysterious crystalline artifacts we discussed in our first episode? The geometric structures with internal properties that modern science struggles to explain? Well, Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team have made a breakthrough that adds another layer to our understanding of the Atlantean catastrophe, using advanced scanning techniques. They've discovered that the crystals contain microscopic inclusions, tiny pockets of material trapped within the crystal matrix when it was formed. And when they analyzed those inclusions, they found something extraordinary. The inclusions contain organic material, Dr. Vasquez explained to her research team during a late-night analysis session. But not just any organic material. We're looking at fragments of what appear to be constructed materials, worked metals, synthetic compounds, even what might be remnants of advanced polymers. The implications were staggering. If the crystals had been formed during the catastrophic destruction of Atlantis, they might actually contain preserved fragments of Atlantean technology, microscopic samples of materials and compounds that could provide direct insight into their level of technological achievement. It's as if Dr. Vasquez whispered to her colleague, the crystals were formed in the heart of the catastrophe itself, preserving tiny pieces of an advanced civilization within their structure, like amber preserving insects from prehistoric forests. Except these crystals are preserving evidence of prehistoric technology. The preliminary analysis of these microscopic inclusions has revealed materials with properties that don't match anything in our current understanding of ancient metallurgy or materials science. Some of the metallic fragments appear to be alloys that require sophisticated smelting techniques to produce. The synthetic compounds suggest knowledge of chemistry that shouldn't have existed thousands of years before the development of modern science. The labyrinth builders, but perhaps the most intriguing evidence of Atlantean survivors comes from an unexpected source: the proliferation of labyrinth symbolism and construction throughout the ancient world following the catastrophe. Period. Dr. Andreas Müller, a specialist in ancient symbolic systems at the University of Vienna, has been studying the sudden appearance of complex labyrinth designs in cultures across Europe, North Africa, and the Near East around 10,000 years ago. What he's discovered suggests a connection that most archaeologists have overlooked. Labyrinths aren't random cultural developments, he explained to his graduate students while examining ancient carvings in Crete. They represent sophisticated mathematical and spiritual concepts. The fact that similar labyrinth designs appear simultaneously across such a wide geographical area suggests either remarkable coincidence or the influence of a shared cultural source. The labyrinths that appear in the post-catastrophe period aren't simple maze patterns. They're complex geometric designs that encode astronomical information, mathematical relationships, and what appear to be navigational or mapping systems. Many are associated with sites that show other evidence of sudden technological advancement. What's most fascinating, Dr. Müller confided to his research partner while studying labyrinth petroglyphs in Spain, is that these designs often appear in conjunction with symbols that match the markings we've found on the Atlantic artifacts. It's as if the labyrinth builders were using a consistent symbolic language, one that connects directly to the Atlantean site. Some researchers have begun to theorize that the labyrinths might actually be maps or encoding systems, ways for Atlantean survivors to preserve and transmit crucial knowledge about their lost civilization. The spiral pathways might represent navigational information for finding other survivor communities, or perhaps even for locating caches of preserved Atlantean technology. The magnetic memory, there's one more piece of evidence that we need to discuss, something so subtle that it's only recently been detected, but so significant that it might explain some of the more mysterious aspects of the Atlantis story. Dr. Sarah Patterson, a geophysicist at MIT, specializes in studying the Earth's magnetic field variations. Her research focuses on how magnetic anomalies can provide information about geological events and ancient civilizations. But when she began analyzing magnetic data from the Atlantic site, she discovered something that kept her working through the night for weeks. The magnetic signature is unusual, she explained to her colleagues during a virtual conference. There's a distinct anomaly centered on the circular structures, but it's not what we'd expect from natural geological formations. The pattern suggests the presence of materials or technologies that could manipulate electromagnetic fields in ways that we don't fully understand. The magnetic anomaly extends deep beneath the ocean floor and shows variations that seem to correspond to the geometric patterns visible in the satellite imagery. But most intriguingly, the anomaly appears to be artificial, too regular and purposeful to be a natural phenomenon. It's as if, Dr. Patterson confided to her research partner, the Atlanteans had developed some form of electromagnetic technology, something that left a permanent signature in the Earth's magnetic field, even after their civilization was destroyed. This discovery has led some researchers to speculate about the true nature of Atlantean technology. Perhaps their crystals weren't just decorative or ceremonial objects, but components in sophisticated electromagnetic systems. Perhaps their circular city design wasn't just aesthetically pleasing, but functionally necessary for some form of energy manipulation or communication system. The question of purpose as we piece together this growing body of evidence, the geological catastrophe, the survivor migrations, the preserved technology, the electromagnetic anomalies, a larger question begins to emerge. Not just who were the Atlanteans, or what happened to them, but why? Why did they develop such sophisticated technology? What were they trying to achieve? And perhaps most importantly, what were they preparing for? Some of the recovered artifacts suggest that the Atlanteans were intensely interested in astronomical phenomena. The crystal structures show internal geometries that seem designed to track celestial movements. The labyrinth patterns encode information about solar and lunar cycles. Even the circular city design that Plato described appears optimized for astronomical observation and calculation. Dr. Michael Harrison, an archaeoastronomer at Cambridge University, has been analyzing these patterns for the past 2 years. His preliminary conclusions are provocative. It appears, he confided to his research team, that the Atlanteans were tracking something, some cosmic event or cycle that they considered critically important. The precision of their astronomical calculations suggests they were preparing for something specific, something that required exact timing and careful preparation. Could the Atlanteans have been monitoring cosmic threats, asteroid impacts, solar flares, or other celestial phenomena that could endanger Earth? Were they developing their technology as a form of planetary defense system? Or were they tracking cycles of geological instability, trying to predict and prepare for the very catastrophe that ultimately destroyed them? The seeds of tomorrow, but here's what might be the most remarkable aspect of the Atlantean legacy. The evidence suggests that their preparations weren't entirely in vain. While they couldn't save their own civilization from destruction, they appear to have succeeded in preserving crucial knowledge for future generations. The survivor communities that established themselves across the Mediterranean and beyond didn't just carry Atlantean technology with them. They carried a mission. Archaeological evidence suggests these communities were systematically working to rebuild and preserve as much of their lost civilization's knowledge as possible. Ancient texts from Egypt, Mesopotamia, and India contain references to wisdom keepers or preservers of the old knowledge groups dedicated to maintaining scientific and spiritual teachings. From the time before the Great Catastrophe, many of these texts describe advanced technologies and cosmic knowledge that wouldn't be rediscovered by mainstream science for thousands of years. The megalithic constructions that appeared across the world following the catastrophe, Stonehenge, the pyramids, the temple complexes of Malta and Turkey, might actually be repositories of Atlantean knowledge, encoded in stone and astronomical alignments that could survive future catastrophes. What we might be looking at, Dr. Rodriguez suggested during a recent symposium, is history's first civilization-scale backup system. The Atlanteans may have recognized that their advanced technology made them vulnerable to catastrophic loss. So they deliberately scattered their knowledge across multiple locations and cultures, ensuring that future civilizations would have access to their discoveries. The modern echo which brings us to a question that's both fascinating and slightly unsettling. Are we finding Atlantean technology now because we're finally advanced enough to recognize it? Or because we're approaching the same kind of cosmic cycle that they were preparing for? Recent discoveries in quantum physics and electromagnetic theory have revealed natural phenomena that seem to match some of the properties exhibited by the Atlantean crystals. Modern satellite technology has made it possible to detect the underwater structures and magnetic anomalies that previous generations couldn't observe. Our growing understanding of catastrophic geology has allowed us to recognize the signs of the Great Atlantic disaster. But there's something else. Something that researchers are only beginning to discuss in private conversations. The astronomical alignments encoded in Atlantean artifacts and survivor sites appear to be pointing toward our current time period. The cosmic cycles they were tracking seem to be approaching a critical phase in the next few decades. Are we rediscovering Atlantis now because their ancient warning system is finally activating? Are the electromagnetic anomalies and crystal technologies beginning to resonate because whatever they were designed to detect is approaching? Tomorrow's Revelation Tomorrow Night, we'll explore perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of the Atlantis story, the growing evidence that the lost civilization's influence extends far beyond the Atlantic. Recent discoveries suggest that Atlantean colonies, or allied cultures, may have established outposts across the globe, from the mysterious ruins beneath Lake Titicaca in South America to the underwater structures off the coast of Japan. We'll meet the researchers who are quietly mapping what they believe to be a worldwide network of Atlantean sites, each containing pieces of the greater puzzle. And we'll examine the most intriguing possibility of all, that some of these sites may still be active, their ancient technologies somehow still functioning after 11,000 years. We'll also explore the most controversial theory emerging from current research, the possibility that the Atlanteans didn't just influence early human civilizations, but that they may have been fundamentally different from us, that their advanced technology wasn't just the result of early human genius, but evidence of something far more extraordinary. But for now, as you settle into sleep, let yourself imagine standing on the shores of ancient Ireland 11,000 years ago. The morning is calm and peaceful. The Atlantic stretches endlessly toward the horizon. But then you notice something, a thin line of white foam in the distance, growing larger by the moment. The ground beneath your feet begins to tremble, and you realize you're witnessing one of history's most catastrophic moments, the arrival of the Great Atlantic Tsunami. What knowledge died with Atlantis on that terrible day? What wisdom was preserved by the survivors who reached these shores? And most importantly, what were they trying to warn us about? Sweet dreams, fellow explorer. Tomorrow, we'll discover that the Atlantis mystery is far larger and far stranger than anyone imagined. The evidence suggests that we're not just looking at a lost civilization, but at something that might change our understanding of what it means to be human. Sometimes the most profound discoveries happen not when we're looking for something specific, but when we step back and see patterns that were hiding in plain sight all along. Tonight, we continue our journey into the Atlantis mystery with perhaps the most remarkable revelation yet. Because as researchers around the world have quietly investigated the evidence we've explored in our previous episodes, they've begun to notice something extraordinary. Atlantis wasn't alone. The catastrophe that destroyed the Atlantic civilization 11,000 years ago may have ended one chapter of human history, but it appears to have begun another. Tonight, we'll explore the growing evidence that Atlantean survivors didn't just scatter randomly across the ancient world, they followed a plan. A carefully orchestrated network of sites and settlements that spans the entire globe. Welcome back, fellow explorer, to a mystery that's far larger than anyone ever imagined. The Mapmaker's Secret DR. Lisa Chun. Yes, another Chun, though this one specializes in cartographic archaeology at the University of British Columbia, made her career studying ancient maps and navigation systems. Her office is filled with reproductions of medieval charts, Renaissance atlases, and mysterious documents that seem to show more of the world than their creators should have known. But in 2020, while analyzing high-resolution satellite imagery for a completely different project, she noticed something that made her stay at her computer for 3 days straight, surviving on coffee and mounting excitement. I was looking at underwater formations off the coast of Bimini, she later confided to her research assistant, when the pattern recognition software flagged similarities to the Atlantis site. At first, I thought it was a glitch, but when I started comparing satellite data from other locations that have always been considered mysterious or unexplained, the connections became undeniable. What Dr. Chin discovered was a global network of underwater and partially submerged structures that shared remarkable similarities with the Atlantis site. The geometric patterns, the proportions, even the electromagnetic signatures, they appeared at locations scattered across every ocean on Earth. The Bahamas site near Bimini showed clear evidence of constructed stone formations arranged in geometric patterns. Sonar mapping revealed structures that extended far beneath the current ocean floor, suggesting they had been built when sea levels were much lower. And the dating consistently pointed to the same time period, approximately 11,000 years ago. But Bimini was just the beginning. The Mediterranean mirrors Dar. Alessandro Moretti has spent 15 years exploring the underwater archaeology of the Mediterranean Sea. His team at the Institute of Marine Sciences in Italy has mapped dozens of submerged sites, from Roman ports to Phoenician harbors. But nothing prepared him for what he discovered. Off the coast of Sardinia in 2021, we were investigating what we thought were natural rock formations, he explained to his diving team. During a briefing aboard their research vessel, the sonar readings suggested geometric regularity, but we assumed it was coincidental. When we actually descended to examine the site, well, coincidence became the last thing on our minds. The Sardinian site featured the same circular patterns that characterized the Atlantic discovery. Stone blocks that had been precisely cut and fitted, arranged in concentric rings around what appeared to be a central harbor or ceremonial area. The construction techniques showed a level of sophistication that predated known Mediterranean civilizations by thousands of years. But what made the discovery truly extraordinary was the scale. The site wasn't just a single structure. It was an entire complex covering several square kilometers of ocean floor. And like the Atlantic site, it showed evidence of having been abandoned rapidly, as if the inhabitants had left in great haste. The preservation was remarkable, Dr. Moretti whispered to his colleague during one of their deep water explorations. As if the site had been flash frozen in time. We found tools, pottery fragments, even what appeared to be tablets covered with symbols that matched the markings from the Atlantic artifacts. But perhaps most intriguingly, the Sardinian site wasn't unique in the Mediterranean. Similar structures had been identified off the coasts of Malta, Cyprus, and Crete. Each showed the same construction techniques, the same symbolic systems, and the same evidence of sudden abandonment around 11,000 years ago. The Pacific puzzled Dr. Kenji Yamamoto had never heard of the Atlantis discovery when he made his own remarkable find off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan, in 2019. The marine archaeologist was investigating reports of unusual underwater formations that local divers had been exploring for years. What he found challenged everything he thought he knew about prehistoric Pacific cultures. The structures were massive, he later told his colleagues at Tokyo University, his voice filled with quiet awe. Terraced platforms, stairways, what appeared to be ceremonial chambers, all carved from living rock with a precision that suggested advanced engineering knowledge. The Yonaguni Monument, as it came to be known, featured the same geometric precision that characterized the Atlantic and Mediterranean sites, but it also contained something unique. Astronomical alignments that suggested its builders had possessed sophisticated knowledge of celestial mechanics. Dr. Yamamoto's team discovered that the monument's major axes were oriented to track specific stellar movements, not just the obvious ones like solstices and equinoxes, but complex cycles that required generations of careful observation to identify. The precision suggested a level of astronomical knowledge that mainstream archaeology didn't associate with Pacific cultures of 11,000 years ago. But as Dr. Yamamoto continued his research, he realized that Yonaguni wasn't isolated. Similar structures had been reported, though not yet thoroughly investigated, off the coasts of Taiwan, the Philippines, and even as far south as Indonesia. Each showed signs of advanced construction techniques and astronomical sophistication. What we're looking at, he confided to his research partner during one of their underwater surveys, isn't just a single monument. It's evidence of a culture that understood the Pacific Ocean as intimately as land-based civilizations understood their territories. They built with the confidence of people who had been seafaring for thousands of years. The American enigma at 12,500 feet above sea level, Lake Titicaca shouldn't contain underwater ruins. Yet Dr. Maria Gonzalez, a marine archaeologist from the University of La Paz, has spent the last decade mapping precisely such structures beneath the lakes. Crystal clear waters. The local indigenous communities have always known about the ruins, she explained to her international research team during an expedition in 2022. Their oral traditions speak of a great civilization that existed before the flood, builders of impossible structures who possessed knowledge of the stars and stones. What Dr. Gonzalez discovered beneath Lake Titicaca matched those ancient stories with startling accuracy. The underwater structures showed the same sophisticated construction techniques found at the Atlantic, Mediterranean, and Pacific sites. Stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons had been precisely cut and fitted without mortar, arranged in complex geometric patterns that seemed to serve both practical and ceremonial purposes. But the Lake Titicaca site contained something extraordinary. Evidence of metalworking techniques that shouldn't have existed in pre-Columbian South America. Analysis of recovered artifacts revealed sophisticated alloys and precision manufacturing that suggested access to advanced metallurgical knowledge. The metal compositions don't match anything we've seen from known ancient American cultures, Dr. Gonzalez whispered to her colleague as they examined samples in their makeshift laboratory. The techniques required to create these alloys wouldn't be rediscovered by European metallurgy for thousands of years. The dating was consistent with all the other sites. Approximately 11,000 years ago, during the same period when the Atlantic catastrophe had scattered Atlantean survivors across the globe, the navigation network as evidence of global Atlantean sites continued to accumulate. Dr. Rebecca Thompson, a specialist in ancient navigation systems at the Royal Geographic Society, began to notice something remarkable about their locations. At first glance, the sites appear randomly distributed, she explained to her colleagues during a presentation in London. But when you account for ancient sea levels and ocean currents from 11,000 years ago, a different pattern emerges. Using computer models to reconstruct prehistoric oceanography, Dr. Thompson discovered that the Atlantean sites weren't randomly placed at all. They were strategically positioned along ancient trade routes and ocean currents, spaced at intervals that suggested a sophisticated understanding of global navigation. The positioning is brilliant, she continued, her voice filled with admiration for ancient engineering. Each site is located at what would have been a natural stopping point for long-distance ocean voyaging. The distances between sites are consistent with the range capabilities of advanced sailing vessels, and the locations take advantage of seasonal wind and current patterns. But the navigation network was even more sophisticated than Dr. Thompson initially realized. The sites weren't just positioned for practical sailing considerations, they were also aligned astronomically, creating a global positioning system based on celestial observations. What they built, she confided to her research partner, was essentially a prehistoric GPS network. Navigators could determine their exact position anywhere in the world's oceans by taking astronomical observations and referencing the known positions of Atlantean sites. This discovery suggested that the Atlantean civilization had achieved something that mainstream history considered impossible: routine global navigation and communication thousands of years before any known culture possessed such capabilities. The crystal communications, remember, those mysterious crystalline artifacts we've discussed in previous episodes? Well, Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team have made a discovery that adds an entirely new dimension to our understanding of the global Atlantean network. While analyzing crystals recovered from different sites around the world, they noticed something extraordinary. The internal structures weren't just similar, they were complementary. It was like finding pieces of a puzzle scattered across the globe. Dr. Vasquez explained to her research team during a late-night analysis session. Each crystal contained different geometric patterns, but when we began modeling how they might interact electromagnetically, well, the implications were staggering. The crystals appeared to be components in a sophisticated communication system. When subjected to specific electromagnetic frequencies, crystals from different sites would resonate in harmony, suggesting they had been designed to work together across vast distances. The technology is beyond our current understanding, she whispered to her colleague while examining a crystal recovered from the Pacific site. But the principle seems to be based on quantum entanglement, the ability of paired particles to affect each other instantaneously regardless of distance. If the Atlanteans had mastered this technology, they could have maintained real-time communication between their sites, anywhere in the world. The discovery suggested that the global Atlantean network wasn't just a collection of isolated settlements, it was a fully integrated civilization with the ability to coordinate activities across continents and oceans. The genetic echoes Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a geneticist at Stanford University, never intended to become involved in Atlantis research. Her specialty is tracing ancient human migrations through DNA analysis. But when she began studying genetic samples from populations living near the suspected Atlantean sites, she discovered patterns that forced her to reconsider everything she thought she knew about prehistoric human distribution. The genetic markers were unusual, she confided to her research assistant while analyzing data from Mediterranean populations. We found shared DNA sequences in groups that should have had no historical contact with each other. Island populations in the Pacific showing genetic similarities to coastal peoples in Morocco, Andean communities with markers that matched populations in Ireland. The genetic evidence suggested large-scale population movements approximately 11,000 years ago, exactly coinciding with the Atlantean catastrophe. But these weren't random migrations of desperate refugees. The genetic patterns showed signs of organized settlement, with specific populations establishing communities at each of the suspected Atlantean sites. What we're seeing, Dr. Mitchell explained to her colleagues, looks like a coordinated diaspora, as if the surviving Atlantean population had been systematically distributed to specific locations around the globe, each group carrying particular genetic lineages and, presumably, specific knowledge and technologies. But perhaps most intriguingly, the genetic analysis revealed that these ancient migrations involved populations with slightly unusual DNA characteristics, genetic markers that didn't quite match standard human patterns from that time. Period. I don't want to overstate the implications, Dr. Mitchell whispered to her research partner, but we're looking at genetic evidence that suggests the Atlanteans might have been biologically distinct from other human populations of their era. Not dramatically different, but different enough to raise questions about their origins. The timekeeper's Dr. Michael Harrison, the archaeoastronomer we met in our last episode, has continued his analysis of the astronomical alignments found at Atlantean sites around the world. What he's discovered suggests that the global network served a purpose far more sophisticated than navigation or communication. The sites aren't just astronomically aligned, he explained to his colleagues during a virtual conference connecting researchers from 6 continents. They're components in what appears to be a global observatory system. Each site tracks different aspects of celestial mechanics, but together they form a comprehensive monitoring network, capable of predicting astronomical events with extraordinary precision. One, the Atlantean sites were positioned to track not just obvious celestial cycles like seasons and eclipses, but complex phenomena like planetary alignments, stellar precession cycles, and even the orbital dynamics of asteroids and comets. What they built, Dr. Harrison continued, his voice filled with growing excitement, was a prehistoric early warning system for cosmic threats. They were monitoring the skies for potentially dangerous objects, asteroids, comets, even solar storms that could threaten life on Earth. But the system was even more sophisticated than that. The astronomical alignments suggested the Atlanteans were tracking cycles that spanned thousands of years, cosmic rhythms that could only be detected through generations of careful observation and record-keeping. They were thinking on timescales that most civilizations never consider. He confided to his research partner, planning not just for their own survival, but for the survival of future human civilizations. The knowledge they were preserving in stone and crystal was intended to serve as a warning and guide for people living thousands of years in the future. People like us, the active sites. But here's where the Atlantis story takes its most extraordinary turn. Because some of the global network sites aren't just archaeological ruins, they appear to still be active. Dr. Patricia Williams, an electromagnetic researcher at CERN, has been monitoring unusual energy signatures detected at several of the suspected Atlantean sites. What she's discovered has forced the international scientific community to ask questions they never expected to consider. The energy patterns are consistent across multiple sites, she explained to a classified briefing of government researchers in 2023. We're detecting electromagnetic anomalies that seem to pulse in synchronized patterns, as if the sites are somehow still communicating with each other across thousands of miles. The energy signatures intensify during specific astronomical events, solar eclipses, planetary alignments, and unusual solar activity. It's as if the ancient Atlantean network is still fulfilling its original purpose, monitoring cosmic conditions and responding to celestial events. The technology is beyond our current understanding, Dr. Williams confided to her research team. But the evidence suggests that whatever the Atlanteans built, it was designed to function autonomously for thousands of years. The network appears to be self-maintaining, drawing power from natural geomagnetic fields and continuing to operate long after its creators vanished. But perhaps most remarkably, the network's activity has been increasing in recent years. The energy signatures are growing stronger, the communication patterns more complex, as if the system is responding to some approaching event or condition. The modern awakening, which brings us to a question that researchers are only beginning to discuss in private. Is the Atlantean network reactivating because we're finally advanced enough to understand it? Or because the cosmic threat it was designed to detect is approaching? Dr. Chun, Dr. Harrison, and their colleagues have noticed a correlation between the increasing network activity and recent astronomical observations. The same cosmic cycles that the Atlanteans were tracking are entering a critical phase over the next several decades. The convergence is remarkable, Dr. Harrison explained during a secure video conference with researchers from around the globe. Multiple astronomical cycles that the Atlanteans were monitoring are approaching alignment points simultaneously. If they were right about the cyclical nature of cosmic threats, then we may be entering a period of increased risk. Recent space observations have identified several potentially dangerous asteroids in orbits that bring them closer to Earth during the current time period. Solar activity has been increasing, with scientists predicting more intense solar storms in the coming years point to even the Earth's magnetic field has been showing unusual fluctuations that some researchers associate with the increased Atlantean network activity. It's possible, Dr. Chun whispered to her colleagues, that the Atlantean network is trying to warn us that their 11,000-year-old early warning system has detected the same kind of cosmic conditions that led to their own civilization's destruction. The Guardian's response, of course, discoveries of this magnitude don't remain secret for long. Government agencies, international organizations, and military researchers have all taken notice of the global Atlantean network research. The responses have been varied. Some agencies have quietly begun monitoring the sites, installing detection equipment, and maintaining regular observation schedules. Others have restricted access to certain locations, citing national security concerns or archaeological protection protocols. But according to several researchers involved in the network investigation, there's been another type of response as well, one that suggests some organizations have been aware of these sites for much longer than they've admitted publicly. We're not the first to discover these locations, Dr. Moretti confided to his colleagues during a private meeting in Rome. Some of the sites show evidence of recent human activity, not archaeological investigation, but systematic exploration and analysis. Someone has been studying the Atlantean network for decades, possibly longer. The implications are both fascinating and slightly unsettling. If government or military organizations have been secretly investigating Atlantean sites for years, what have they learned? What technologies have they potentially recovered? And why has this research been kept classified? Tomorrow's Truth Tomorrow Night. We'll explore the most controversial and potentially transformative aspect of the Atlantis mystery, the growing evidence that the Atlanteans weren't just an advanced human civilization, but something far more extraordinary that will examine the biological anomalies, the technological impossibilities, and the disturbing questions that researchers are only beginning to ask in private. We'll meet the scientists who believe that solving the Atlantis mystery might require us to fundamentally reconsider what we think we know about human origins, technological development, and our place in the cosmos. And we'll explore the most startling possibility of all, that the Atlantean network isn't just a monument to a lost civilization, but an active system still operating according to its original programming. A technology so advanced that it continues to function 11,000 years after its creators vanished, still monitoring the skies, still preparing for threats that may be approaching faster than anyone realizes. But for now, as you drift towards sleep, let yourself imagine standing on a hillside overlooking the Pacific Ocean at sunset. The water stretches endlessly toward the horizon, peaceful and eternal. But far beneath those gentle waves, ancient structures pulse with mysterious energy, part of a global network that connects every ocean on Earth. What messages are they sending? What warnings are they preserving? And what happens when the cosmic cycles they're monitoring finally align, just as they did 11,000 years ago? Sweet dreams, fellow explorer. Tomorrow, we'll discover that the Atlantis mystery isn't just about the past. It's about understanding who we are, where we came from, and what we're all preparing for, whether we realize it or not. There are moments in human discovery when we encounter something so profound, so fundamentally challenging to our understanding of reality, that we must choose between comfortable ignorance and transformative truth. Tonight we reach one of those moments. Over the past 3 episodes, we've explored evidence that Atlantis was real, a sophisticated civilization that left traces in geological records, satellite imagery, and artifacts scattered across the globe. We've seen how their survivors established a worldwide network of sites, preserving knowledge and technology across thousands of years. But now we must ask the question that researchers have been whispering to each other in private conversations. The question that could change everything we think we know about ourselves. What if the Atlanteans weren't entirely human? Welcome back, fellow explorer, to the most extraordinary chapter of our journey. Tonight, we explore evidence so remarkable that it forces us to reconsider not just ancient history, but the very nature of intelligence, consciousness, and life itself. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the geneticist we met in our last episode, never intended for her research to venture into such controversial territory. But as she continued analyzing genetic samples from populations living near suspected Atlantean sites, the anomalies became impossible to ignore. The genetic markers are unlike anything in the standard human lineage database, she confided to her most trusted research assistant during a late-night analysis session. We're looking at sequences that suggest a different evolutionary pathway. The DNA samples showed characteristics that didn't match known human genetic development. Certain gene sequences appeared to be far more recent in evolutionary terms than they should be, as if they had been introduced into human populations rather than developing naturally over millions of years. But perhaps more remarkably, some of the genetic markers suggested capabilities that standard human physiology shouldn't possess. Enhanced neural conductivity that could support faster information processing, modified cellular structures that appeared more resistant to radiation and environmental toxins, even skeletal markers that suggested adaptation to different gravitational conditions. It's as if, Dr. Mitchell whispered to her colleague while examining particularly unusual samples, these populations had been enhanced somehow. Their genetics show signs of deliberate modification or hybridization with something that wasn't quite human. The implications were staggering. if the Atlanteans had possessed advanced genetic knowledge, or if they themselves represented some form of genetic enhancement, it could explain their seemingly impossible technological achievements. Dr. Robert Chun, a paleoanthropologist at Oxford, had always been skeptical of claims about ancient advanced civilizations. But when he began examining skull fragments recovered from Atlantean sites, his skepticism gave way to profound puzzlement. The cranial capacity is unusual, he explained to his graduate students while examining specimens in his laboratory. We're looking at skull shapes and internal structures that suggest brain organization patterns unlike anything in the known human fossil record. The skull fragments showed enlarged areas in regions associated with pattern recognition, spatial reasoning, and what neuroscientists call enhanced cognitive integration, the ability to process multiple complex information streams simultaneously. The bone structure itself appeared designed to support neural activity levels that would be impossible for standard human brain tissue, but most remarkably, some of the skulls showed evidence of what appeared to be natural electromagnetic sensitivity. Microscopic structures in the bone suggested the ability to detect and possibly interact with electromagnetic fields in ways that no known human population had ever demonstrated. We're looking at cranial adaptations, Dr. Chin whispered to his research partner, that suggest these individuals could literally perceive electromagnetic phenomena. They might have been able to sense the Earth's magnetic field, detect electromagnetic communications, even interact directly with the crystal technologies we've found at their sites. Dr. Elena Vasquez has spent 3 years analyzing the crystalline artifacts recovered from Atlantean sites around the world. What she's discovered challenges not just our understanding of ancient capabilities, but the very laws of physics as we currently understand them. The internal structure of these crystals is impossible, she explained to a classified briefing of government scientists in early 2024. The atomic arrangements create quantum properties that we can barely achieve in our most advanced laboratories. The precision required to manufacture these materials would require technology that's at least a century beyond our current capabilities. But the impossibility went beyond manufacturing precision. When subjected to various forms of energy input, the crystals exhibited behaviors that seemed to violate conservation of energy principles. They produced more electromagnetic output than the energy being applied to them, suggesting they were somehow drawing power from sources that mainstream physics couldn't identify. It's as if, Dr. Vasquez confided to her research team, they understood fundamental aspects of reality that our science hasn't discovered yet. The crystals appear to be interfacing with quantum fields, zero-point energy, or some form of cosmic background radiation that we can detect but not harness. The implications were profound. If the Atlanteans had mastered technologies based on physics principles that were still beyond human understanding, it suggested they possessed either vastly superior intellect or access to knowledge from elsewhere. Dr. Michael Harrison's astronomical analysis had already revealed that Atlantean sites incorporated mathematical relationships of extraordinary complexity. But as he delved deeper into their architectural proportions and celestial alignments, he discovered something that kept him awake for weeks. The mathematical constants encoded in their constructions include principles that weren't discovered by human mathematics until the 20th century, he explained to his colleagues during a secure video conference. We're finding evidence of advanced calculus, complex geometric relationships, and even what appears to be early quantum mathematical principles. The Atlantean sites incorporated mathematical concepts like the golden ratio, pi, and various transcendental numbers with a precision that suggested intuitive understanding rather than laborious calculation. But more remarkably, they also included mathematical relationships that modern science had only recently discovered, constants related to quantum mechanics, relativity, and cosmic structure. They weren't just advanced mathematicians, Dr. Harrison whispered to his research partner while examining architectural measurements. They understood mathematical principles that describe the fundamental structure of reality itself. It's as if they could perceive mathematical relationships directly, without needing to derive them through traditional calculation. The precision suggested either computational capabilities far beyond anything ancient human cultures should have possessed, or alternatively, minds that could intuitively grasp mathematical relationships that challenged human comprehension. Dr. James Morrison, the linguist analyzing Atlantean symbolic systems, made a discovery that forced him to reconsider everything he thought he knew about the development of language and communication. The symbol systems aren't just writing, he explained to his research team while projecting images of Atlantean markings. They're multidimensional information encoding systems that incorporate visual, mathematical, and what appear to be harmonic elements simultaneously. The Atlantean symbols could be read on multiple levels, as phonetic representations, as mathematical equations, as geometric patterns, and as harmonic frequencies. Each symbol carried layers of meaning that created complex information networks when combined with other symbols. But most remarkably, when the symbols were converted to their harmonic equivalents and played as audio frequencies, they produced sounds that had unusual effects on human consciousness. Test subjects exposed to Atlantean harmonic patterns showed increased pattern recognition abilities, enhanced memory formation, and what researchers described as expanded cognitive awareness. It's as if, Dr. Morrison confided to his colleague, their language was designed not just to convey information, but to actually enhance the cognitive capabilities of anyone who learned it. The symbols themselves appear to function as a form of consciousness-expanding technology. Dr. Lisa Park, a bioengineering specialist at MIT, was brought into the Atlantean research project to analyze the relationship between the recovered artifacts and human biological systems. What she discovered suggested a level of biotechnological integration that modern science is only beginning to understand. The crystalline artifacts aren't just tools, she explained to her research team while examining interaction data. They appear to be designed to interface directly with human neural and biological systems. The electromagnetic frequencies they produce are precisely calibrated to resonate with human brainwave patterns. When test subjects interacted with the Atlantean crystals under controlled laboratory conditions, their brain activity showed dramatic changes. Neural firing patterns became more coherent and synchronized. Information processing speed increased significantly. Most remarkably, subjects demonstrated enhanced intuitive problem-solving abilities that persisted even after the interaction ended. The technology appears to be bioadaptive, Dr. Park whispered to her research partner during one of their late-night analysis sessions. It somehow recognizes and responds to individual biological signatures, customizing its effects for optimal neural enhancement. It's as if the artifacts were designed by beings who understood human consciousness better than we understand it ourselves. But the biotechnology went beyond simple enhancement. Some subjects reported experiencing what they described as expanded awareness, the ability to perceive patterns and relationships that weren't normally accessible to conscious thought. A few even claimed to receive information or insights that seemed to come from sources beyond their own knowledge. Dr. Rebecca Watson, a consciousness researcher at the Institute for Advanced Studies at Princeton, was initially skeptical when asked to investigate reports of unusual consciousness effects associated with Atlantean artifacts. But her carefully controlled experiments produced results that challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of human awareness. The subjects aren't just thinking faster or more clearly, she confided to her research team during a classified briefing. They're demonstrating forms of information access that shouldn't be possible according to our current understanding of consciousness and cognition. Test subjects interacting with Atlantean crystals showed the ability to access information they had no normal way of knowing. They could describe historical events they had never studied, solve mathematical problems using techniques they had never learned, and demonstrate intuitive understanding of scientific principles beyond their educational background. Most remarkably, some subjects began displaying what appeared to be limited telepathic abilities, the capacity to sense thoughts or emotions from other people in the testing environment. The effects were subtle but statistically significant, suggesting that the Atlantean technology somehow enhanced or activated dormant aspects of human consciousness. We're looking at evidence, Dr. Watson whispered to her colleague, that consciousness might be far more flexible and expandable than we've ever imagined. The Atlantean artifacts appear to be designed to unlock human cognitive potentials that we didn't even know existed. As evidence continued to accumulate from multiple research disciplines, a small group of scientists began quietly discussing a hypothesis so extraordinary that most were reluctant to voice it even in private conversations. Dr. Martinez, a theoretical biologist at CERN, first proposed what became known as the hybrid hypothesis during a classified meeting of researchers in Geneva. What if, he suggested to his carefully selected colleagues, the Atlanteans represent evidence of genetic interaction between early human populations and something else? Some form of intelligence that possessed capabilities beyond normal human parameters. The hypothesis suggested that the Atlantean civilization might have resulted from contact between early humans and beings possessing advanced genetic, technological, and consciousness-related capabilities. This contact could have resulted in hybrid populations that combined human adaptability with enhanced cognitive and technological abilities. The genetic evidence supported this possibility. The technological impossibilities made sense if the Atlanteans had access to knowledge from more advanced sources. The consciousness-expanding artifacts suggested familiarity with aspects of awareness that pure human development might not naturally discover. It would explain everything, Dr. Martinez confided to his research partner. The sudden appearance of advanced technology, the global coordination capabilities, the sophisticated understanding of physics and mathematics, even the apparent biological enhancements. If the Atlanteans were the result of some form of intervention, then their capabilities become comprehensible. Dr. Chun, Sarah Chun, the marine archaeologist who first investigated the Atlantic site, has spent months analyzing the implications of all the research findings. Her conclusions, shared only with the most trusted members of the research community, challenge humanity's fundamental assumptions about our place in the cosmos. The evidence points to a scenario that most people would find difficult to accept, she explained during a secure video conference with international researchers. But we have to follow where the data leads, regardless of how challenging it might be to our worldview. The accumulated evidence suggested that the Atlantean civilization might have been established or influenced by non-terrestrial intelligences, beings from elsewhere, who possessed advanced understanding of genetics, consciousness, physics, and technology. These visitors might have worked with early human populations to create hybrid civilizations capable of serving as bridges between human potential and advanced cosmic knowledge. The global network of sites could have served as monitoring stations, communication nodes, and knowledge preservation systems designed to guide human development over thousands of years. The network is still active, Dr. Chun whispered to her colleagues, because it was designed to operate until humanity reached a certain level of development. The increasing activity we've detected might indicate that we're approaching the point where the preserved knowledge is meant to be fully revealed. Dr. Williams, the electromagnetic researcher monitoring energy signatures at Atlantean sites, has detected patterns that suggest the network is entering a new phase of activity. The implications, if her analysis is correct, could transform human civilization. The energy signatures are becoming more complex and coordinated, she explained to her research team during an emergency briefing. It's as if the network is running through some kind of activation sequence, preparing for a major operational change. The increased activity correlates with recent advances in human technology, quantum computing, genetic engineering, consciousness research, and space exploration capabilities. It's as if the Atlantean network is responding to humanity's technological development, becoming more active as we approach capabilities similar to what the original civilization possessed. The network might be a fail-safe system, Dr. Williams confided to her colleague, designed to reactivate when humanity demonstrates readiness to receive advanced knowledge. The Atlanteans might have anticipated that their civilization could be destroyed, so they created an automatic knowledge transmission system to ensure that their discoveries wouldn't be permanently lost. The implications are both exciting and sobering. If the network is preparing to share advanced Atlantean knowledge with modern humanity, we might be on the verge of technological and consciousness breakthroughs that could solve our greatest challenges: energy, environment, space exploration, and the nature of consciousness itself. But there's one more possibility that researchers are beginning to consider one so profound that it could redefine humanity's understanding of its cosmic role and destiny. Dr. Harrison, working with astronomical data from the global network, has detected that the sites are tracking celestial objects that shouldn't be visible to conventional observation. The network appears to be monitoring artificial objects in space, structures that show signs of intelligent construction and purposeful movement. We're detecting electromagnetic communications between the terrestrial network and objects in space, he whispered to his research partner during a classified analysis session. The patterns suggest ongoing contact with intelligences that are elsewhere. The possibility is both wondrous and transformative. The Atlantean network might not be just a monument to a lost civilization, but an active communication system still maintaining contact with the cosmic intelligences that originally helped establish it. That if this is true, then the increasing network activity might indicate that these intelligences are preparing to re-establish more direct contact with humanity. The knowledge preservation system, the consciousness expanding technology, the global monitoring network, all of it might be preparation for a reunion with our cosmic cousins who helped guide human development thousands of years ago. Tomorrow night, in our final episode, we'll explore the most profound implications of everything we've discovered. We'll examine what the reactivating Atlantean network might mean for humanity's immediate future. We'll discuss the evidence suggesting that we're approaching a cosmic milestone that the Atlanteans prepared for thousands of years ago. That we'll meet the researchers who believe that solving the Atlantis mystery isn't just about understanding the past, it's about preparing for a transformation of human consciousness and capability that could define our species' cosmic future. And we'll explore the most remarkable possibility of all, that we aren't just discovering Atlantis, but that Atlantis and the intelligences behind it have been patiently waiting for us to become ready to rejoin the cosmic community from which our ancestors once learned. But for now, as you settle into sleep, let yourself imagine standing under a clear night sky, looking up at stars that suddenly seem less distant and more familiar. Somewhere among those points of light, intelligence watches and waits. And here on Earth, ancient technologies pulse with patient energy, counting down to a reunion that has been planned for 11,000 years. What will it mean to discover that we are not alone? That we never were alone? That the cosmos is filled with intelligence and consciousness, and that humanity is about to take its place among civilizations that span the stars? Sweet dreams, fellow explorer. Tomorrow, we'll discover that the Atlantis mystery is really the story of humanity's cosmic heritage and our extraordinary future. There are moments in the history of consciousness when everything changes, when the veil between what we thought was possible and what actually exists becomes so thin that reality itself seems to shimmer with new meaning. Tonight we reach the culmination of our journey into the greatest mystery humanity has ever encountered. Over the past 4 episodes, we've traveled from ancient philosophy to modern genetics, from underwater archaeology to cosmic consciousness. We've discovered that Atlantis was real, that its survivors established a global network of sites, and that this network appears to have been created through contact with intelligences beyond our world. But now we must ask the ultimate questions. Why now? Why are these ancient technologies awakening in our time? And what does it mean for the future of human consciousness and our place in the cosmos? Welcome, fellow explorer, to our final episode. A journey into possibilities so extraordinary that they may represent the next chapter in humanity's cosmic story. Dr. Amelia Richardson, a specialist in comparative mythology at Harvard, never expected her academic research into ancient prophecies to intersect with cutting-edge archaeological discoveries. But as she analyzed texts from cultures around the world, she found something that sent chills down her spine. The patterns are unmistakable, she confided to her research partner while examining manuscripts from Egypt, India, Tibet, and the Americas. Cultures that should have had no contact with each other all preserved similar prophecies about a time of great awakening, a period when ancient knowledge would return to guide humanity through a cosmic transition. The prophecies consistently described a time when the sleepers beneath the waters would awaken, when the crystals of the ancients would sing, again, and when the children of two worlds would remember their heritage. The descriptions matched, with startling accuracy, the phenomena that researchers were currently observing at Atlantean sites around the globe. But most remarkably, the prophecies all pointed to the same time period, our current era. Ancient calendars from multiple cultures identified the early 21st century as the beginning of what they called the Great Convergence, when humanity would be ready to receive the preserved wisdom of the elder civilizations. It's as if Dr. Richardson whispered to her colleague, the Atlantean survivors didn't just scatter randomly after the catastrophe. They carried with them a specific timeline, a cosmic schedule that their descendants preserved in myth and prophecy for 11,000 years. Dr. Rebecca Watson's consciousness research has entered a new phase as reports of unusual experiences associated with Atlantean artifacts have spread beyond the scientific community. What she's discovering suggests that humanity may be experiencing a species-wide shift in cognitive capability. We're receiving reports from around the world, she explained to her international research team. During a secure conference, people living near suspected Atlantean sites are reporting spontaneous experiences of expanded consciousness, enhanced intuition, increased creativity, and what many describe as direct access to information they shouldn't normally be able to know. The experiences aren't random or isolated. They follow specific patterns that suggest the Atlantean network is somehow influencing human consciousness on a global scale. People report receiving insights about solutions to personal problems, scientific breakthroughs, and even artistic inspirations that seem to come from sources beyond their individual knowledge. The network appears to be interfacing directly with human consciousness. Dr. Watson confided to her research partner, not invasively, but collaboratively, as if it's designed to work with human awareness to unlock potentials that were always there, waiting to be activated. Most remarkably, many of the people experiencing these consciousness expansions report a common theme: the sensation of remembering knowledge rather than learning it for the first time, as if humanity is recalling abilities and understanding that we once possessed but had forgotten. Dr. Elena Vasquez has made a breakthrough that could revolutionize our understanding of technology itself. The Atlantean crystals aren't just ancient artifacts, they're components in a technology that's becoming active in response to modern human capabilities. The crystals are adapting, she explained to a classified briefing of government and military researchers. They're somehow interfacing with our modern technology, enhancing and expanding its capabilities in ways we never thought possible. Research facilities studying Atlantean artifacts have reported that their computer systems, electromagnetic equipment, and even quantum processors show dramatically enhanced performance when operating in proximity to the ancient crystals. The improvements aren't just quantitative, they're qualitative, with equipment demonstrating new capabilities that shouldn't be possible according to their original design specifications. It's as if, Dr. Vasquez whispered to her research team, the crystals are teaching our technology how to evolve. They're serving as a bridge between our current understanding and possibilities we haven't yet imagined. Some researchers have begun experimenting with deliberate integration between Atlantean crystal technology and modern systems. The results have been so extraordinary that most of the work has been classified, but leaked reports suggest breakthroughs in energy generation, communication systems, and computational processing that could transform human civilization within decades. That Dr. Sarah Mitchell's genetic research has revealed that the unusual DNA markers found in populations near Atlantean sites aren't just historical curiosities, they're becoming increasingly active in the current generation. We're observing unprecedented levels of genetic expression, she explained to her carefully selected research team. DNA sequences that have been dormant for thousands of years are suddenly becoming active, particularly in individuals born after 1990. The genetic activation appears to be triggered by proximity to Atlantean sites and artifacts. Children and young adults living in these areas are displaying enhanced cognitive abilities, increased electromagnetic sensitivity, and what researchers describe as intuitive technological aptitude, the ability to understand and operate complex systems without formal training. It's as if Dr. Mitchell confided to her research partner, "Humanity is experiencing a controlled evolutionary leap. The dormant genetic potentials left by Atlantean contact are reactivating, but in a coordinated way that suggests deliberate timing rather than random mutation. The implications are staggering. If the genetic activation continues at current rates, the next generation of humans may possess capabilities that bridge the gap between current human potential and the enhanced abilities that the ancient Atlanteans demonstrated." That Dr. Patricia Williams has detected that the electromagnetic communications between Atlantean sites and space-based objects have intensified dramatically over the past year. The patterns suggest that some form of contact protocol is being activated. The communication patterns have become more complex and purposeful, she explained to her international research team. "We're no longer just observing passive monitoring. We're seeing active information exchange between the terrestrial network and intelligence sources in space. The space-based objects being tracked by the network have begun moving into positions that suggest preparation for more direct interaction with Earth. Several objects have entered orbits that bring them closer to our planet during specific astronomical alignments that the Atlantean sites have been tracking for thousands of years. The evidence suggests," Dr. Williams whispered to her colleague, "that we're approaching a planned contact event. The Atlantean network appears to be serving as a communication and coordination system for intelligences who have been waiting for humanity to reach a certain level of development." Government agencies around the world have begun quietly preparing for the possibility of open contact with non-terrestrial intelligences. The preparations aren't based on science fiction speculation, but on careful analysis of the electromagnetic communications and orbital patterns that the Atlantean network has been tracking. Dr. James Morrison's analysis of the Atlantean symbolic systems has revealed that they're not just language, they're consciousness expansion, protocols designed to prepare human awareness for contact with advanced intelligences. The symbols function as a form of cognitive preparation, he explained to his research team while demonstrating the effects of Atlantean harmonic patterns. They appear to be designed to gradually expand human consciousness until it becomes capable of direct communication with minds that operate on entirely different cognitive principles. Individuals who study the Atlantean symbolic systems report progressive expansion of their awareness and problem-solving abilities. Many describe eventually reaching a state where they can perceive information directly, without needing traditional sensory input or logical reasoning processes. "The symbols are teaching us how to think like they think," Dr. Morrison confided to his research partner. "They're serving as a bridge between human consciousness and the type of awareness that created the Atlantean civilization." Most remarkably, individuals who achieve advanced understanding of the symbolic systems report being able to communicate telepathically with others who have reached similar levels of development. It's as if humanity is being prepared for a form of direct mind-to-mind communication that will be necessary for contact with advanced cosmic intelligences. Dr. Michael Harrison's astronomical analysis has revealed that the cosmic cycles tracked by the Atlantean network are approaching a critical convergence point much sooner than originally predicted. The implications suggest that humanity's cosmic reunion may happen within the next decade. The celestial alignments are accelerating, he explained to his colleagues. During an emergency international research conference, multiple cosmic cycles that should take decades to converge are happening simultaneously, as if some external intelligence is influencing the timeline. The space-based objects tracked by the network have begun exhibiting behaviors that suggest they possess the ability to manipulate gravitational and electromagnetic fields on a cosmic scale. Their movements appear to be fine-tuning the celestial alignments that the Atlantean sites use for communication and coordination. "We're witnessing," Dr. Harrison whispered to his research team, "what appears to be large-scale cosmic engineering. These intelligences aren't just waiting for natural cosmic cycles, they're actively creating the conditions necessary for contact and consciousness expansion." The timeline acceleration explains why the Atlantean network has become so active in recent years. The original schedule, established 11,000 years ago, is being compressed to accommodate humanity's rapid technological development and the approaching opportunity for cosmic contact. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the current awakening is the emergence of what researchers privately call the bridge generation, children and young adults who appear to be natural interfaces between human and Atlantean consciousness. Dr. Lisa Chen has been studying these individuals, whose abilities suggest they may be the fulfillment of the ancient prophecies about children of two worlds. These young people display cognitive and perceptual abilities that are unprecedented in human development, she explained to her carefully selected research team. They seem to intuitively understand Atlantean technologies, can interpret the symbolic systems without formal training, and demonstrate natural telepathic and electromagnetic sensitivity. The bridge generation individuals report that interacting with Atlantean artifacts feels like coming home or remembering who I really am. Many describe receiving information or guidance from sources they identify as the ancient teachers or the star families. What we're seeing, Dr. Chun confided to her research partner, appears to be the emergence of a new form of human consciousness, one that naturally bridges terrestrial and cosmic awareness. These individuals may be the key to successful contact and integration with the intelligences that created the Atlantean civilization. The bridge generation is growing rapidly, with reports of enhanced abilities appearing in young people around the world, particularly in areas near Atlantean sites. Their emergence suggests that humanity is being prepared from within for the consciousness expansion that contact will require. All the research streams are converging on a single, extraordinary conclusion. Humanity is approaching the completion of an 11,000-year preparation period. The Atlantean network, the preserved technologies, the consciousness expansion protocols, even the genetic activation, all of it appears to have been designed to prepare our species for reunion with the cosmic intelligences that once guided our ancestors. Dr. Sarah Chun, coordinating the international research effort, has compiled evidence that suggests the preparation phase is nearly complete. Every indicator we're monitoring suggests that humanity is approaching the threshold, she explained to the assembled representatives of the global research community. Our technology is advancing rapidly toward compatibility with Atlantean systems. Our consciousness is expanding through interaction with their preserved knowledge. Even our genetics are activating in ways that bridge human and enhanced capabilities. The space-based objects tracked by the network have moved into positions that suggest they're preparing for direct contact. The electromagnetic communications have evolved into what appears to be detailed coordination protocols. Most remarkably, the consciousness expansion effects are accelerating, with more people around the world reporting enhanced awareness and direct intuitive access to advanced knowledge. The convergence appears to be scheduled for the next few years, Dr. Chun whispered to her closest research colleagues. All the cosmic cycles, technological developments, and consciousness preparations are pointing toward a specific window when humanity will be ready for open contact and cosmic integration. But as humanity approaches this cosmic milestone, researchers have identified something crucial. The transition isn't automatic. It requires conscious choice and active participation from our species. Dr. Rebecca Watson's consciousness research has revealed that the Atlantean network is designed to respond to humanity's collective readiness and willingness to embrace expanded awareness and cosmic connection. The technologies are waiting for us, she explained to her international research team, but they won't force expansion or contact upon us. The network appears to be designed to activate fully only when humanity demonstrates collective readiness for cosmic consciousness. The choice isn't just individual, it's species-wide. The awakening technologies respond to humanity's overall level of consciousness, cooperation, and wisdom. They're designed to ensure that contact and enhancement only occur when our species has developed sufficient maturity to handle advanced capabilities responsibly. We're approaching, Dr. Watson confided to her research partner, what may be the most important decision in human history: the choice to evolve consciously, to accept our cosmic heritage, and to take our place among the intelligences that guide the development of consciousness throughout the universe. The decision will be made not by governments or institutions, but by humanity itself, through our collective choices about consciousness, cooperation, and our willingness to embrace possibilities beyond our current understanding around the world. Signs of the approaching awakening are becoming increasingly visible to those who know how to look. The Atlantean sites pulse with growing energy. More people report consciousness expansion experiences. The bridge generation continues to emerge with enhanced capabilities. Dr. Harrison has detected that the cosmic alignments are approaching their optimal configuration for contact and consciousness expansion. The window will open within the next few years and remain active for approximately a decade, long enough for humanity to make the transition, but brief enough to require decisive action. The signs are all around us, he explained to his colleagues during their final research conference. Increased solar activity, unusual electromagnetic phenomena, spontaneous technological breakthroughs, and a growing sense among many people that something extraordinary is approaching. The awakening isn't limited to scientific phenomena. Artists report unprecedented creative inspirations. Inventors develop technologies that seem to emerge from intuitive understanding rather than logical development. Even children speak of dreams and experiences that suggest awareness of cosmic connection and enhanced possibilities. The entire planet appears to be preparing, Dr. Harrison whispered to his research team, as if the Earth itself is participating in humanity's cosmic awakening. As our journey through the Atlantis mystery reaches its conclusion, we find ourselves standing not at an ending, but at the threshold of the most extraordinary beginning in human history. The evidence we've explored, the underwater ruins, the global network, the impossible technologies, the consciousness-expanding artifacts, the genetic activations, and the cosmic communications, all point to a single, transformative truth. Humanity is not alone, and we never have been. We are part of a vast community of conscious beings that spans the stars, guides the evolution of awareness throughout the cosmos, and works patiently across thousands of years to help developing species like ours reach their full potential. The Atlantean civilization was humanity's first contact with this cosmic community. Their destruction was not the end of that relationship, but the beginning of an 11,000-year preparation period designed to help us develop the wisdom, technology, and consciousness necessary for full cosmic integration. And now that preparation period is nearly complete. The ancient network is awakening. The preserved technologies are activating. The bridge generation is emerging. The cosmic alignments are converging. That we stand at the threshold of becoming who we were always meant to be, conscious participants in the vast symphony of awareness that guides the evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. The Atlantis mystery was never really about a lost civilization. It was about remembering our cosmic heritage and preparing for our return to the community of conscious beings that helped guide our early development. The underwater ruins, the impossible artifacts, the consciousness expansion technologies, they're not just archaeological curiosities. They're invitations, reminders, wake-up calls from our cosmic family, gently encouraging us to remember who we really are and to take our place among the stars. The choice is ours. The preparation is complete. The technologies are awakening. The cosmic family is waiting. What will we choose? Will we embrace the extraordinary truth of our cosmic heritage? Will we allow our consciousness to expand beyond the limitations we've accepted for so long? Will we step forward into our role as conscious participants in the evolution of awareness throughout the universe? The ancient network pulses with patient energy, ready to bridge the gap between what we've been and what we're becoming. The stars themselves seem to whisper encouragement, reminding us that the cosmos is vast and filled with friends we haven't yet remembered. And so our journey through the Atlantis mystery comes full circle, revealing that it was never really about the past at all. It was about the present moment, this extraordinary time when humanity stands at the threshold of cosmic consciousness. Tonight, as you settle into sleep, let yourself feel the gentle pulse of ancient technologies awakening around the world. Sense the vast network of consciousness that spans the stars, waiting patiently for humanity to remember its place in the cosmic family. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You are part of something vast and beautiful and conscious that extends beyond the boundaries of time and space. The Atlantean mystery was simply a way of remembering this truth, A gentle reminder that you are so much more than you've been taught to believe. Dream tonight of ancient wisdom awakening in modern hearts. Dream of technologies that bridge matter and consciousness. Dream of the day when humanity will look up at the stars not as distant points of light, but as the homes of family members we're finally ready to meet again. The mystery of Atlantis has led us to the greatest truth of all. We are cosmic beings having a human experience, and our cosmic family has been waiting patiently for us to remember who we really are. Sweet dreams, fellow explorer. Sweet dreams, child of two worlds. Sweet dreams, cosmic being remembering your way home. Welcome to the awakening. Welcome to your cosmic heritage. Welcome home.